I spent 4 years slaughtering pigs in the palace. Every swing of my cleaver claimed a life, without exception. With each pig I killed, I recited a prayer. My masterful butchery caught the eye of a prince, who took me into his inner circle. I became the deadly butcher's knife. He became the butcher who wielded it. Killing and beheading. Amit Ba. Burying on the spot. How virtuous, how virtuous. Everyone in this world has a sickness. Pestilence rages across the land, but when you look around, no one is sicker than Emperor Yen. The emperor is plagued by a stubborn illness, and his remedy is the brain matter of a virgin. His Majesty once said that fine food is nothing without fine vessels, and the skull that holds the brain matter is that vessel. Almond eyes, jade nose, cherry lips, snow-white skin. Beauty of form means beauty of vessel. A hole matching the size of a human skull was carved into a Zetan sandalwood table. The palace maids ordered the beauty to crawl beneath the table and stick her head through the hole. The hole was just large enough to lock in place half of her head. A matron swung her axe. An apothecary's apprentice pried it open with tongs. Emperor Yen stepped out from behind the screen, jade chopsticks in hand, to enjoy this delicacy. The people are like lambs, slaughtered without a word, not even a bleat. Her life had ended, but the grand feast continued. Like many virgins sold into the Yen palace, I knelt in the hall awaiting my fate. When it was my turn to crawl under the table, something went wrong. I said the wrong thing. The Yen emperor lay behind a screen, and I couldn't see him clearly. Only a youth at the foot of the steps, holding fire tongs, with an innocent, jade-like countenance. He looked like a celestial boy under Guanqi's seat, with a tiny red mole on his brow, a minuscule cinnabar spot. The golden throne hall was resplendent, unlike my drafty home. Busy looking around, I shouted joyfully, "So warm!" This exclamation made the Yen emperor suspect that my brain wasn't fit for consumption, so he ordered me thrown out of the hall. The executioner auntie, who specialized in beheading, led me to a side courtyard. I struck up a conversation with her. "It seems I won't be beheaded by you. I'm truly glad," she said with gravity. "Child, your joy is premature. If you're not foolish, you die. If you're truly foolish, you die. And if you pretend to be foolish, you die too." No matter what kind I was, the Yen emperor wanted me dead. The auntie swung her iron axe, scaring me into squealing and running wildly around the yard, my 2 cloth shoes flying off. A round golden bead rolled away. Nanny picked it up and examined it carefully. "You like it?" I whispered. "I'll give it to you. Just don't chop me up." Nanny indeed did not chop me. In Yen Palace, there were often palace servants who jumped into wells. Nanny fished out a female corpse to report for duty and stuffed me into the kitchen. She warned me, "Don't you dare speak carelessly. If you don't want to die, pretend to be a mute." Nanny had killed countless lives, but she was wholeheartedly devoted to Buddha. She believed in the cycle of karma, that good and evil would be repaid. So in addition to chopping people, she never forgot to copy sutras and burn incense. She taught me hand in hand how to slaughter pigs. At 13, I slaughtered pigs masterfully in the kitchen. My hand touched, my shoulder leaned, my foot stepped, my knee braced. Each movement produced a sound in perfect harmony. The blade struck with a whoosh and a ring, all in rhythm. I had just finished slaughtering a pig. Covered in blood, I pressed my palms together and chanted, "Amit Ba, blessed be." Nanny was no longer young. Her strength to swing the axe was waning. When winter came, her knees would ache. I warmed my hands and covered hers with them. One night, she sighed deeply and lamented, "Those parents of yours are absolute scoundrels, selling a good kid like you into the palace." She threw out the topic but got no response for a long time. The old nurse said I had no manners. I protested indignantly. "You're the one who told me to play dumb." Embarrassed, she changed the subject and casually asked about my background. "My name is Guanqi. I have no father. When I was 12, my mother fell ill and passed away. I went alone to Yendu to seek refuge with my uncle. My mother had said that she helped him out when he was poor. Since my family was in trouble, he wouldn't refuse to help. When I arrived in Yendu, my uncle and his family welcomed me warmly. The meal was abundant. I was starving, but I forced myself not to touch my chopsticks. My mother also said that when living under someone else's roof, you must be polite. If the host hasn't started eating, you don't either. I stayed at my uncle's house for 3 months. My aunt was beautiful and gentle, and she treated me very well. Then, one night, she asked me to help thread a needle. I licked the thread end, and then I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes, I was already kneeling in the great hall. Pfft, two shameless beasts. The matron held my hand. Remember, the more beautiful a person is, the more likely they are to deceive. I said, then I'll only trust you, matron. She said, if you can't speak well, speak less. Spring frogs and autumn cicadas, winter came and summer went. One day, the matron went to the great hall but never returned. Her headless body was carried out. It was said the Yen emperor, tired of young girls' brains, had tried the taste of an old woman. The matron's personal Eunuch Su, sorted through her belongings and found a letter she had written. I couldn't read, so I asked Eunuch Su to read it. He read, after my death, all my money goes to Su Jinbao. Eunuch Su took away all the matron's pouches of gold beans, leaving only one thing, that axe. I swung this iron axe and rushed around the kitchen. After chopping pigs, I would go before Buddha to repent. In my heart, I silently recited a Michuofo. After reciting for a long time, I began to miss the matron. Everyone who dies needs a tombstone. I wanted to set one up for her too. I tore down the boards that patched the kitchen window, bury it in the dense forest of Yen Palace, treating it as Nanny's memorial tablet. When no one is watching, I'll bring a food box filled with slop and place it in the broken bowl before Nanny's tablet. The slop went missing. The kitchen staff found it very odd. What kind of undiscriminating thief would steal even slop? I also found it strange that the slop I used for offerings would vanish by the next day. Until one night when I was 15, I went to the dense forest with my food box as usual to pay respects, but ran into a young man wolfing down the food before the tablet. The moonlight was eerie, illuminating his finely chiseled features. There was a captivating cinnabar mole between his brows. Nanny had taught me how to identify the various masters of the palace. She said the 13th prince was the easiest to recognize. The 13th prince was named Yen Ci. Ci meaning compassion. A small blood-red cinnabar mole adorned his brow. Yen Ci's birth mother was once the imperial consort Yen, who dominated the harem. But she grew arrogant from favor and poisoned Empress Jing, the mother of Crown Prince Yen Qing. Emperor Yen flew into a rage, demoting consort Yen to a slave, sentencing her to labor in the Imperial Laundry Bureau without allowance. Yen Ci was stripped of his prince's privileges, barred from studying, and forced to serve as the emperor's medicine boy. He received a pitiful monthly wage. The emperor's medicine required the brains of virgins, and the medicine boy's job was to crack open their skulls. The matron said, 472. I said, what? The matron replied, I've cut off that many beauties' heads. I counted on my fingers and realized that the 13th prince, Yen Ci, had cracked open that many beauties' skulls. Fortunately, I recognized the 13th prince, Yen Ci. Unfortunately, when I recognized him, he had just finished killing someone. Eunuch Su's skull had been brutally cracked open, and a puddle of urine spread beneath him. It was utterly ridiculous. I wanted to laugh but felt it would be impolite, so I grinned while muttering a confession. Amitabha, good and virtuous. In the dark of night, murder and arson. Yet here I am, smiling sweetly. Aren't you running away? Yen Ci asked suspiciously. Girls your age only scream when they see me. I had become very skilled at sign language. I gestured, saying I was mute. How pitiful. Yen Ci's cold hand slithered up my neck like a snake. In your next life, choose a better family. His palms suddenly tightened, choking me as I flailed wildly. I kicked over the lunchbox, spilling out the sour swill, reeking of filth. Yen Ci hesitated for a moment, then loosened his grip on my throat. These foods, did you put them there? Why didn't you say so? He frowned. You don't seem very bright. The old nurse often said, great wisdom seems foolish. Since great wisdom seems like folly, then folly should seem like great wisdom. Actually, not being smart is a kind of smartness too. I nodded, stealing a glance at his expression, then mustered the courage to crawl beside the corpse and remove Eunuch Su's shoes and socks. A few plump golden beans rolled out from Eunuch Su's shoe. I hastily picked them up and earnestly offered them to Yen Ci. Yen Ci twirled the golden beans and chuckled. Little mute, what do you do in the kitchen? He could tell from my gestures that I was mute, but he couldn't understand my sign language. After I gestured for a long time, he barely guessed what I meant. Slaughter a pig. Only then did Guanqi notice the iron axe I was hiding behind my back. He humbly asked me how to kill. I showed Guanqi my specialty. That year I was 15, and he was 17. Eunuch Su was the pig, and I was the butcher. I raised my knife and brought it down. I neatly chopped the pig into 24 pieces. After chopping, I stood before the 24 pieces of white meat and devoutly recited Buddhist prayers. My professional pig butchering skills caught Guanqi's eye, and I was spared from death. He said that since I could not speak and was illiterate, I was perfect for keeping secrets. The first secret I kept was the reason Eunuch Su was killed by Guanqi. Guanqi worked as a medicine boy, but his monthly silver was barely enough to support himself and his birth mother, so he started doing sneaky and dishonest things in the palace. Eunuch Su went to pay respects to the nanny, but unfortunately stumbled upon Guanqi secretly eating swill. Eunuch Su, whose eyes were blinded by greed, grew evil intentions. Seeing that Guanqi was at a disadvantage, he used this incident to extort benefits from Guanqi. Guanqi couldn't take it anymore, so he cracked open his skull and ordered me to cut him into pieces and bury them in separate places. We found the eunuch's mother's letter on him, and I said I couldn't read it. Guanqi said it was fine, and he read it to me. Chi, the old wet nurse, was very wicked. Everyone remembers to hate her, but you must remember to think of her. After reading the letter, Guanqi threw Eunuch Su's head into the spring pond. The skull sank beneath the green ripples with a gurgle, stirring up the spring waters. Does it sound good? Guanqi carefully folded the letter paper for me. If it sounds good, then it's a good head. The head of Eunuch Su was a secret between Guanqi and me. Guanqi said that those who knew his secrets were either trusted confidants or dead men. Well then, I thought, so I became his confidant, learning to do what a confidant must. For instance, stealing. His birth mother was frail and often ill, but Guanqi couldn't afford good medicine, so he had to steal. However, the Imperial Medical Hall was heavily guarded and hard to raid. He set his sights on the precious medicinal ingredients used in the kitchen for brewing therapeutic stews. Every night at the third watch, I would sneak into the kitchen to pilfer. Moonlight streamed down from the wooden shelves, and the Persian glass jars stood in a neat row, their surfaces shimmering with a soft luster. The kitchen weighed precious ingredients daily, so I only dared to take a little at a time for fear of getting caught. At the fourth watch, I carefully placed the glass jar back on the shelf, and then I heard the barking of dogs outside the window. This was the signal to leave. Once, just after I climbed out the window, I vomited uncontrollably because I had seen the kitchen's new delicacy, a crystal-clear glass jar filled with golden liquor, inside which were chunks of fresh meat, embryos cut from a pregnant belly. Guanqi caught my vomit all over him. He said, "You call yourself a trusted confidant? I'd say you're a trusted calamity." The kitchen staff found it strange too. They were baffled. Why did the petty thief who stole swill no longer show up? Because I had switched to stealing leftovers. Leftovers weren't easy to steal, but they were indeed delicious. In short, I became Guanqi's trusted confidant. He took me to meet his mother, whom everyone called Yannu. She was like a pearl covered in dust, though weathered by the years. Her radiance was still striking. I called her Nyang Nyang. Nyang Nyang was extremely kind. When I had free time, I would help Nyang Nyang brew medicine. She was very polite and would say thank you. Although there were no servants left in Huaizhi Palace, Nyang Nyang still kept it in perfect order. A sweet osmanthus tree was planted in the yard. When autumn came, the golden osmanthus filled the air with fragrance. Nyang Nyang had Guanqi shake the tree while she caught the blossoms beneath it. She pounded the osmanthus into hair oil. Seeing that my hair was frizzy, she also gave me a jar. The next night while I was out thieving, Guanqi smelled the osmanthus scent on my hair bun and asked with interest, "Aren't you afraid she poisoned it?" I gestured. Osmanthus hair oil smells nice. Why would Nyang Nyang put poison in it? Because she has poisoned people to death. The people in the laundry bureau see her as a villain and fear she might secretly poison them. I avoided her like the plague. I raised my hand to refute, but the Empress would say thank you. People in the laundry bureau never said thank you to me. The Empress fell ill, and Emperor Yan allowed her to skip laundry duty and recuperate within Huaizhi Palace. She welcomed my visits. We basked in the sun in the courtyard, and she taught me things, like how to plant hydrangeas. Yen Xi never interfered with the Empress's lessons. Only once, when the Empress wanted to teach me to read. Mother consort, Yen Xi, sitting under the tree, suddenly spoke up. I think Guanqi is fine as she is. There's no need for her to learn characters. The Empress frowned. She can't speak or write. How will she make others understand her? I understand her, Yen Xi said gently. It doesn't matter if others don't understand her. It's enough that I do. The Empress asked if I wanted to learn. I shook my head. Killing pigs, with blood splattering everywhere, that's much more exciting than studying. When winter came, I would go to Huaizi Palace to burn the leftover herbal dregs for the Empress. One day, Yen Xi suddenly stared at my hand holding the fan. Little mute, you have chilblains, he said. When the Imperial Household Department distributes charcoal, I'll give you 2 braziers worth. Soon after, the charcoal arrived. Yen Xi lit the charcoal in the bedchamber. He called me over to hold out my hand and helped me apply shiny clam oil on the back of it. The fire tongs Yen Xi used to pry open people's skulls were set in the charcoal stove, licked red by the flames. Outside the window, wind and snow raged. Inside the room, warmth filled the air. The charcoal crackled and sputtered, like mother singing a lullaby, making me drowsy. This made me feel a bit guilty. Yen Xi said it wasn't my fault. It was the charcoal that was too smoky. People are good. Charcoal is bad. In the dead of winter, the charcoal delivered by the Imperial Household Department was of poor quality, burning with thick smoke. Yen Xi interrogated the eunuch in charge, but the man only chuckled and said, His Highness the Crown Prince is in charge of this matter. This servant will go ask for you. I remembered that Crown Prince Yen Qing's birth mother, Empress Jing, had been poisoned to death by Yen Xi's mother. Yen Xi led me, carrying a food box, to plead with Yen Qing. Yen Qing was holding a hyena on a leash, with a page boy following behind him, and kicked the food box over with one foot. Yen Qing laughed loudly. Such a small piece of fish maw, and you dare to bribe me with it? When moo, he sneered, turning around and ordering the page boy to stand in a horse stance. Someone crawl through. I might reward you with some charcoal. There's such a good thing in the world. I was overjoyed and crawled under the page boy's crotch. Yen Xi, where did you pick up this good dog? Yen Qing winked at him. The dog crawled through the dog hole. Why don't you crawl? Yen Xi's jaw tightened, his fists clenched, but in the end he crawled under the page boy's crotch. Good. There's no better show than this. Yen Qing clapped his hands and laughed. When Mu, instruct the Imperial Household Department to send good charcoal to Huaizi Palace. After that, Yen Qing, having tasted the sweetness, made a promise. Every time Yen Xi crawls under a crotch, he gets 1 tael of good charcoal. Every evening at dusk, Yen Qing would leave early with the page boy, disappearing without a trace. He was going to torment Yen Xi, so naturally he had to avoid prying eyes. Yen Xi's knees were black and blue. I applied safflower oil for him and gestured to ask why he didn't go and complain. The first burst exhausts, the second tires, the third runs out, he said. If you want to destroy someone, we must strike to kill and uproot the weeds completely. After barely enduring the spring chill, late spring arrived. Emperor Yen had a poor appetite and could only drink ginseng soup. The palace acquired many medicinal guides. To treat his stubborn ailment, Yen Xi was extremely busy, breaking 3 pairs of fire tongs. Entering summer, Emperor Yan's illness worsened. The imperial physician bled him to remove toxins, saying, cures like royal blood was needed to restore. Emperor Yan had many offspring, but few dared to bleed themselves to save their father. As luck would have it, Crown Prince Yanzhan was away managing floods and could not return to the palace. In the end, it was Yen Xi who knelt before the couch and cut his wrist. He respectfully raised his arm, allowing Emperor Yen to sip his blood. During that time, I often stole duck blood from the imperial kitchen, foolishly trying to use cures like. Yen Xi said, not everything can be cured this way. When we met, he showed me the cut on his wrist, a fierce scar on pale skin. Yen Xi asked me, is it ugly? I signed, a little. He said, look more closely. I signed. I already looked carefully. He actually got angry over this, stubbornly ordering me to sign many times. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. A flying squirrel crawled under our feet. Yen Xi strangled it and lifted its tail. Guanqi, do you know what Walingzi is made of? It's flying squirrel droppings. Dried and ground into powder, it can be used as medicine. Yan Ci said, it happens to counteract ginseng. In early autumn, good news came. His chronic illness finally showed signs of improvement. Emperor Yan was overjoyed and agreed to let Yan Ci return to the Imperial Academy to study. Yan Ci's status rose like the tide. He could now sit as an equal with his imperial brothers and cousins. He intercepted me from the kitchen and asked me to help move charcoal. On the way to the Imperial Household Department, we encountered Yanqing again. Yanqing, as usual, mocked him. A base-born brat who climbed up by selling his blood is unfit for the throne. After Yanqing left, Yan Ci suddenly asked me with a puzzled look, Guanqi, why can't I ascend the throne? This was the second secret he had confided in me. I blinked, staring straight into his ambition. I knew Yan Ci had extraordinary skills, and he told me everything. Even the sudden worsening of Emperor Yan's illness was his doing. A block of ice had been filled with Walingzi powder, which would take half an hour to fully melt. The imperial physician said the emperor had a fiery constitution. Ice was needed to suppress his heat toxin. With the lingering summer heat so fierce, Emperor Yan drank iced ginseng soup every day. Yan Ci carried that basin of soup, walked into the hall to test it for poison, and serve it. It took exactly half an hour. Ambition is like a horse. Once the reins that bind it are removed, it can no longer be reined in. The Empress discovered the tampered ice in the cellar of Huaizi Palace and also uncovered Yan Ci's unchecked ambition. At the fifth watch, I went to Huaizi Palace to deliver food. I saw Yan Ci kneeling in the courtyard, his lips blue and purple. It happened to be the first snow that day. I wanted to step forward and help brush the snow off him, but the Empress behind me harshly ordered me back. Disloyal and unjust. She grabbed a broomstick and struck him. Is this how I taught you? Foolish. Loyalty to the sovereign and filial piety to the father, that is loyalty and righteousness. But aiding the tyrant in his evil deeds, is that also loyalty and righteousness? Yan Ci sneered, Mother, it is you who are foolish. Look at how the 16th Prince Yanzhan is loyal to his father and respects his elders, how he controls floods and drives away plagues, earning widespread fame. Did I have a choice? Yan Ci said, almost gnashing his teeth. I am the son of a criminal. Who would be willing to follow me? Do I enjoy cracking open people's skulls? Do I like stealing every night? Do I take pleasure in murder and dismemberment? Who doesn't want to be a hero admired by all? Frost gathered on Yan Ci's eyelashes. I want that too, he said, but I never had a choice. The Empress swept away in a huff, but Yan Ci remained kneeling. To coax him inside, I lifted the lid of the food box. It was grilled base. If you don't eat, it'll get cold. I bent over to shield the box from the falling snow, freeing my hands to gesture. Let's eat inside. Then, without warning, Yan Ci, still kneeling on the ground, reached out and wrapped his arms around my neck, breaking into a distraught, wailing cry. His warm tears rolled down my neck, turning cold as the wind blew. I felt that Yan Ci was very much like his tears, hot and cold. After the argument, Yan Ci followed the consort's instructions and melted the remaining tampered ice into the snow. The vast white snow concealed everything. The Huaizi Palace returned to its usual calm, but undercurrents stirred in private. Yan Ci stayed obedient for no more than half a year before he arranged to meet me at midnight, sitting beneath the kitchen window, sharing sweet potatoes and his plans. If Father the King died, the Crown Prince Yanqing would succeed. If Yanqing died, then it would be the renowned Yanzhan. He murmured that before poisoning Father, he must first remove these two stumbling blocks. Guanqi, tell me, how should I deal with my good imperial brother? I made a gesture of slaughtering a pig. He laughed. He's dumber than a pig, but killing him is much harder than killing a pig. Suddenly, movement came from the bushes beside us, interrupting what Yan Ci was about to say. A cat's meow sounded. Yan Ci said, a stray cat has come to forage. Before his words faded, I had already seen his gesture, and I quickly darted into the bushes, catching the intruder. The page boy whose mouth I covered was terrified. Yan Ci parted the bushes, his tone dark. So, it's not a stray cat. It's the Crown Prince's house cat. This person is Yanqing's page boy, Wenmu. I've heard that Wenmu excels at writing Plum Blossom's small regular script, and no one in the palace can surpass him. But to me, Plum Blossom small script is not as good as Plum Blossom sweet soup. What made me remember Wenmu wasn't his beautiful handwriting, but his crotch. Both Yen Ci and I have crawled under Wenmu's crotch. When I crawled through, he even sat on my head. Giggling, Yen Ci leisurely heated the fire tongs with iron pliers, politely asking Wenmu not to scream and disturb the neighbors, just to state his purpose. Wenmu, tied up tightly, was so scared that his crotch leaked urine, and he almost told them the color of his underwear. He said he just came to take a piss. He said he only heard one sentence, Yen Ci's words that the wild cat was coming to hunt. Yen Ci smiled. Yongqing Palace is to the east. You came here to take a piss. You must be bored at night. He hates lying the most. He was about to use a cleaver to pry open Wenmu's fingernails, but muttered to himself before doing so, that would ruin his writing. Yen Ci asked me what I feared most. I pointed at my teeth. I was terrified of having one pulled. Yen Ci eagerly volunteered, saying he would heat the pliers red-hot before pulling it, but right before he started, he turned around and dipped the red-hot pliers into a bucket of water. Regretfully, Yen Ci said, pulling teeth will make him scream. Better to pry off his fingernails. Yen Ci kept changing his mind back and forth. Wenmu's heart was in his throat. Not a single drop of blood had been shed, yet sweat had already soaked his back. With one hand tied, Wenmu clutched a dry twig and shakily wrote on the ground. He wrote a line. Yen Ci read it aloud, and I glanced over it. He wrote so much, wordy and rambling, but it all boiled down to one thing. Emperor Yan's illness had come on suspiciously, and Yen Qing had grown suspicious of Yen Ci's actions. So he sent people to investigate, scaring him this way and that, Wenmu could only squeeze out that much. We had finished interrogating him, but how to deal with him? Yen Ci said, whether he heard anything or not, we'll count it as if he did. If you heard that, you must die. Well, it looks like I'm going to kill another pig. I was sharpening my knife. Wenmu was terrified. Wait, you can't kill me, he said quickly. I am Yen Qing's page boy. If I die, he won't let it go easily. Yen Ci picked up his fire tongs. Guanqi, third imperial brother, has many talented people around him. Why would he entrust such an important task to a mere page boy? Before I could answer, a warm liquid was already streaming down my cheek. I touched it, it was bright red blood. In a flash, Wenmu, like countless maidens sent to Emperor Yan's dining table, died silently. Before I killed the pig, Yen Ci asked me, Guanqi, will you still bring me grilled base? I nodded. He ruffled my head and said, do it. I swung the knife down, just like when I dealt with Su Jinbao. After dealing with Wenmu and burying his body, Yen Ci took Wenmu's head. At the end, he came back. The head is the part that most easily reveals a person's identity. I think he probably found a hidden place. I hid my head. I took off the blood-stained shoes, socks, and outer robe, and burned them all to ashes. My hands and feet were icy cold as I leaned by the fire to warm myself. Yen Ci wrapped me in his cloak. He squinted contentedly. Guanqi, are you warm?
Ba.
The blood is warm. The charcoal is warm. Yen Ci's cloak is also very warm. Wenmu was missing. Yen Qing took leave from the Academy of Scholars, leading his hyena to search for someone. They dug up a pale, severed thigh. The palace servants buzzed with gossip. I squeezed into the crowd to watch the excitement. Quite disappointed. What's there to see? But the coroner watched with great interest. He turned the thigh over, and after a long while said, Your Highness, I cannot yet determine the victim's identity. Useless. Yen Qing's face darkened. Then tell me, when can you confirm the victim's identity? Your Highness, please calm your anger. Once your beloved dog finds all the body parts and I piece together the original appearance, I will be able to determine the victim's identity. Come, lead it. Yen Qing turned and ordered the eunuchs. Dig 3 feet deep if you must, but dig it out for me. The coroner received his reward money and bowed repeatedly obsequiously. Your Highness is wise. The day the remains see the light again. It must be the time for the culprit to pay with his life. Dusk heavy, flames on the horizon. The brilliant fiery clouds stained the entire sky a captivating orange, making the red walls and golden tiles of Yen Palace appear even more vivid. Gilded with a layer of beautiful red gold, but no one had the heart to appreciate this lovely scenery. The palace servants gathered in groups, whispering to each other, their faces filled with fear. Some said it was ghosts, others said it was villains. If I'm not a ghost, then I must be a villain. Everyone always says that villains are punished by heaven. But I haven't lived enough yet. I don't want to be taken by heaven. Clothes can be burned, cleavers can be sunk in the pond, but my blood-stained hands cannot be broken. Hyenas can smell the corpses of the dead, and they can also smell the blood lingering on my hands. If the hyena bites me, will Yan Ci save me? Or will he abandon me without hesitation, just like Yan Qing abandoned Wenmu? This excessive digging up of body parts stirred panic in the palace. In an instant, many rumors spread like wildfire. I was unusually distracted while scraping fish scales and cut my finger. The cook on duty, Yin Tao, asked, "Guanqi, what's wrong?" Yin Tao had a natural talent and could half understand my sign language, but she could always keep the conversation going. Once, my back was very itchy and I wanted her to scratch it. She watched me gesture and suddenly understood. "You're a monkey, you want peaches." She gave me peaches. I felt indebted. Occasionally, I would act as Yin Tao's tree hollow. She told me her secrets and I listened. Yin Tao had a crush and she was troubled by it. I didn't understand her troubles because I was a person with few worries. But now I also have worries. I'm afraid the hyenas will sniff out what I've done and then eat my hands. I huddle by the charcoal stove, smoking fish.
Gloomy.
Yin Tao squeezed over and touched my hand, clicking her tongue. Like ice chips. To cheer me up, she brought me a big peach.
I didn't want a big peach.
I wanted a big axe. If I had a big axe, I could chop up everything I hate, chop the hyenas, chop the corrupt officials, chop the tyrant. After Yan Ci received the emperor's favor, he no longer needed me to steal things for him, but he would come to the kitchen at night to see me. Tonight, under the flickering lamplight, Yan Ci was not as cheerful as usual. He stood by the stove, turning the fire tongs. The unextinguished charcoal glowed faintly, reflected in his eyes like two translucent amber stones. Sparks, as if drunk, drifted dizzily from the stove, swirling around the tongs. "For someone who must die, what's the better way?" he asked slowly. "For lying to his master, having his skull cracked open? Or for murder and robbery, being torn apart by 5 horses? Guanqi, you choose for her." The kitchen was suffocatingly hot, so Yan Ci simply opened the door. He smiled at me. "Answer me. I know you can speak." I crouched under the table, trembling, watching his shadow stretch long and slanted by the moonlight, like a monster. The shadow slowly closed in on me, enveloping me. I looked up. Seeing Yan Ci crouch in front of the desk, supporting himself with his hands on the edge, looking down at me, he asked softly, "Curious, aren't you? Curious where you slipped up?" Pretending to be mad could no longer get me off the hook. I crawled out from under the desk and gazed at his face. Gorgeous, yet lethal. So dangerous. So captivating. "Your Highness, it's been far too long since I last spoke." My own tone felt foreign to me, my voice as faint as a mosquito's hum. Yan Ci leaned down to listen. I extended a finger, hooked it around his collar, and pulled him closer. I breathed a warm puff of air against his earlobe. Hoarsely, I said, "I know where the flaw is." Our faces were inches apart, warm breaths intertwining, tickling each other's hearts. I licked my dry lips. "Since I first entered Yen Palace 4 years ago, the very first time we met, Your Highness knew I could speak. Just as Your Highness, knowing full well I could speak, still pretended to believe I was mute." I paused briefly, then continued, "And I, knowing full well Your Highness is exceptionally clever with a photographic memory, still pretended to believe you had forgotten me. Every step in Yen Palace is fraught with danger, so I willingly played the part of a mute butcher. Just to stay alive, Yan Ci reached out. The thin calluses on his fingers scraped across my lips, leaving a subtle sting. You say I'm deliberately playing along and acting dumb. Of course, I am a spectator in the chess game, a silent pawn, used and discarded at will. Yan Ci wants to avenge the humiliation of being forced to crawl between someone's legs, yet also wants to escape unscathed. The best method is to kill by proxy. Then, he discards the knife to protect himself, watching from the sidelines. I am that knife he will abandon. He came tonight to take my life. I gave him a bright smile. Your Highness, you want to kill me for no more than 2 reasons. First, you feel deceived by me, become estranged, and wish to punish me. Second, the secret is out. You don't trust me, an accomplice, and want to silence me. "Your Highness, why must you utterly destroy me? I have a plan that can both spare my life, keep my lips sealed, and also serve as a light punishment as a warning to others." In a flash, my hand reached into the slightly warm charcoal brazier. I picked up a charcoal pellet and swallowed it whole. This was a wild gamble. Lose my life or lose my voice. The pain nearly made me pass out. I curled up on the ground, clawing at my throat. After a short while, fate, that fickle dealer, revealed its hand to me. The charcoal I had swallowed did not kill me on the spot. It only burned my throat. I had lost my voice. I had won my life back. After the charcoal swallowing incident, my status in Yan Si's heart changed. I went from being his greatest threat to becoming his trusted confidant. The search progressed rapidly. Of Wenmu's remains, only the skull had not been found. If the coroner saw the cracks on the skull, he would understand everything. I was not afraid. I was curious about what method Yan Si would use to extricate himself. Just then, Yan Si said that the Empress had suddenly fallen ill and ordered me to go out of the palace to buy medicine on his behalf. If they did not let me pass, I was to say it was the Yan Emperor's order. He told me to remember, do not speak, do not show my face. Once it reached the third watch, I must not linger. Yan Si took out a wineskin chilled with ice, opened it, took a drink himself, then handed it to the carriage driver. The driver thanked him repeatedly and tucked it into his bosom. The carriage swayed and jolted. I curled up inside, looking down at the prescription. There were many categories, and it was the dead of night. I feared I wouldn't be able to gather all the herbs on the list by the hour, 3 to 5 a.m. I had to rush back to the palace in a hurry. The night enveloped the palace, with dogs barking in bursts and harsh male voices mixed in. Keep your eyes peeled and search well. If you can't find that servant boy's head, the crown prince will have yours. The night watchman's call came from afar, drawing nearer. The long night truly stretched on. I had run through nearly half of Yen City, but still couldn't buy all the herbs on the list before the hour. As soon as the hour arrived, I pushed open the courtyard gate of Huaitzi Palace. Yan Si stood in the yard holding a small lantern, his face expressionless. I had no idea what he was thinking. The candlelight flickered, and in his eyes burned 2 golden flames of ambition. A gale swept through, causing the lanterns in front of the hall to sway violently. As the light shifted, the shadow of the osmanthus tree in the courtyard also writhed menacingly. Go inside and decoct the medicine, Yan Si said softly. She's waiting in the hall. A premonition of danger made my whole body tense. I was still carrying those packets of herbs as I mounted the steps. A strange odor invaded my nostrils. The intense scent of osmanthus mingled with the smell of rust. It was so unbearably foul. Through the door, I heard the dripping sound of water echoing in the empty room. The sound gathered. Each drip resonated against my eardrums. My heart sank. I slowly pushed open the main hall's door. A few flying squirrels fled in panic. The first thing to meet my eyes was the lady's wide-open, beautiful eyes. My gaze hurriedly swept past her ashen face, finally landing on her bloodied abdomen. Her plain white clothes could not contain the blood seeping out, dripping onto the floor. The lady had died sitting upright in the chair. Her abdomen was slit open, her hand gripping the blade, like a broken doll with its cotton stuffing half pulled out. Drip, drip. The blood spread to the door. I let go, and the medicine crashed to the ground. It fell into the blood. Yan Si's voice came from behind me. Guanqi, tell me, why did she die? It was the height of summer. Large hydrangea flowers bloomed in the courtyard, their dense clusters of tiny blossoms like 1,000 wide-open eyes, attempting to spy on the secrets of the world, like roaring mouths trying to reveal obscure truths. Yan Si's fingers gently brushed over the flower stamens, that hand pale to the point of sickness. His master is the greatest mystery in this world. Do you know Guanqi, in distant Yingzhou, people call it the hydrangea. This flower is closely connected with the dead. Beneath the hydrangea lies where the dead rest. When the hydrangea blooms, it means the dead have something to say. Why don't they speak while alive? Yan Si snapped off a branch. Why only speak when they're about to die? Beyond the courtyard wall, flickering lights shone. Suddenly, I heard the rustling sound of fabric rubbing. Someone seemed to be coming. I am Lin Xiaodong, Right Judge of the Supreme Court, acting under the orders of His Highness the 16th Prince, Yan Zhan, investigating the case of Wenmu. Someone knocked on the door. Consort Yan, Your Highness the 13th Prince, I have unearthed Wenmu's skull in front of Huaixi Palace. Please open the door for inspection. No one answered. The knocking grew more impatient. The man added, the Crown Prince and His Highness the 16th Prince are waiting. Stop with all that nonsense. Yan Qing shouted. A loud crash. The courtyard gate crashed down, and palace attendants bearing torches swarmed in. Yanxi found Wenmu's head. The cause of death was already determined. Someone had pried open his skull. Died on the spot. What happened? Wenmu's head was not sunk in the spring water pond as I had imagined, but was buried by Yanxi in front of Huaixi Palace. The torchlight illuminated Yanxi's tear-streaked face. Yanqing stepped out from the crowd, dressed in brocade robes, strutting arrogantly. Now you can't deny it any longer, my good imperial brother. Yanqing approached him, quite pleased with himself. I want you to pay with your life. I killed Wenmu, said Yanxi. Then he buried his head under the threshold of Huaixi Palace. The crowd was in an uproar. Lin Xiaodang seemed not to expect the case to be resolved so easily. Stroking his beard, he said, Since he has confessed, arrest him. Lord Lin. A young attendant screamed. Forgetting courtesy, look over there. The crowd, puzzled, looked up at the half-open main hall doors. They all gasped, their faces turning ashen. Yanqing paled the most. Lin Xiaodong's expression changed drastically. Hurry, go invite His Highness the 16th Prince in to have a look, hurry. Qi, you remember. Lord Lin, you have judged countless cases. Can you also judge one for me, a sinner? Yanxi, with tears in his eyes, looked beautiful yet fragile, his voice trembling. Crown Prince Yanqing abuses his power, forcing good women into prostitution. It goes against human morality and heaven's law. The more beautiful a person, the better they lie. That night, Yanxi accused Crown Prince Yanqing of abusing his power, from the winter solstice the year before last to last autumn. Taking advantage of his role in managing internal affairs, he withheld charcoal supplies for Huaixi Palace and threatened to force the Empress to submit to him. He suspected that the Empress's death was related to him. Before he could finish his words, Yanqing, furious, stepped forward and kicked him. Yanxi let out a muffled groan and then knelt down, kowtowing 3 times to Lin Xiaodang. Blood seeped from the corner of his forehead, mingling with tears as they flowed down in winding paths. Each thud was a sound of blood and tears. Tonight, Yan Nu fell suddenly ill. I used Father King's name as a pretext to leave the palace to buy medicine. So I called for the kitchen maid on night duty to come to Huaixi Palace. But when I returned at the hour of evening, I found her fast asleep in the courtyard. I scolded her a couple of times, then turned and pushed open the door to the main hall. I saw Yan Nu. I saw my mother. I grabbed that servant and questioned him. Before I could ask a few questions, you arrived. He suddenly turned his head to look at me. If it wasn't Yanqing who drove my mother to her death, then it was you who killed her. When Her Highness died, I was the first to be suspected. Lin Xiaodang suspected that I had been caught stealing and decided to kill. First, he gave me 20 strokes with the board. My backside was a mess, but I didn't utter a word. He was so furious that he slammed the table and stood up, cursing, You insolent slave. Sir, are you mad? I'm mute. Even if you shit in my mouth, I can't tell if it's good or bad. At most, I can taste the saltiness. Fortunately, the officers found a sedative in the servants' meals, which explained why I had been sleeping in the courtyard. Given that I was clean, my pockets were empty, and my eyes were dazed and foolish. Right Vice Magistrate Lin Xiaodang ruled me innocent, but his expression was displeased. If this matter has nothing to do with the servant, could it really be related to the Crown Prince? Given the gravity of the situation, Lin Xiaodang submitted an urgent report to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice immediately reported to Emperor Yan that night. The Emperor flew into a rage and ordered a thorough investigation. The 3 courts assembled and set up a tribunal on the spot. The 2 cases were tried together, determined to uncover the truth tonight. To ease the Emperor's mind, Yanxi, guilty of crimes, was brought up in shackles. Dried blood clotted on his cheek, and his lips were bruised from the punch Yanqing had just thrown. He looked disheveled, but that mole hung shamelessly between his brows like a merciful eye. In the winter 2 years ago, charcoal was doled out in liang increments. I found it strange, and only then learned the truth from my mother. Yanqing came almost every evening to the Huaixi Palace seeking pleasure. Every time my mother made him happy, he rewarded her with a liang of good charcoal. I told her to stop, but she said Yan Qing was blackmailing her with their adultery, forcing her to continue the illicit affair. Before the words faded, Yan Qing abruptly rose, grabbed Yan Ci by the collar and roared furiously, "You son of a bitch, you're slandering me." As if prepared, Yan Qing pulled a letter from his bosom. He slapped it onto Yan Ci's face. Before Wenmu disappeared, he told me that he accidentally dirted your robe, and you cursed him viciously. He was anxious day and night, so he left this letter as proof. After reading the letter, the Chief Justice of the Court of Judicial Review nodded. This is Plum Blossom's small regular script. It was indeed written by him. Yan Qing pressed his advantage. Just over a piece of clothing, you could kill Wenmu? With such a venomous heart, who would dare believe a word you say? Yan Ci lowered his eyes. Your Highness, dare you swear an oath? Apart from this matter, Wenmu and I have no grudges. I swear by my title as Crown Prince. Yan Qing declared loudly. Apart from this incident, Wenmu and you are strangers, with no enmity. Good, Yan Ci said clearly. Yan Ci, as a convicted criminal, humbly requests the three esteemed officials to summon witnesses. The witnesses Yan Ci called were a eunuch who had been in charge of distributing charcoal funds 3 years ago and a grand tutor from the Imperial Academy. The young eunuch stammered, This humble one only remembers that His Highness the Crown Prince ordered me not to supply good charcoal to Huai Ci Palace. The officers made as if to strike him, scaring him into wailing for his parents. And as for the charcoal, it was handed out ounce by ounce. The bleary-eyed grand tutor song was brought over in the middle of the night. Not knowing what was going on, he still answered the Chief Justice's questions truthfully. It was the winter before last. The Crown Prince often left early with his page boy, and they would disappear without a trace. Yan Qing's face flushed red. He paced back and forth in the courtyard with his hands behind his back, as if having made a momentous decision, and said through gritted teeth, I did do it. I reduced the charcoal for Huaizi Palace because that wretch poisoned my mother, the Empress. As for why the charcoal was handed out ounce by ounce, it was because Yan Ci and I made a deal. Every time he crawled between Wenmu's legs, I would reward him with an ounce of good charcoal. To avoid attracting attention, I would leave school early. As for the talk about me forcing an honest woman into prostitution, that was him nursing a grudge, scheming to drag my name through the mud. After swallowing my pride and admitting to my vile deeds, Yan Qing actually grew bolder and more righteous. Except for this matter, it's all baseless nonsense. Brother Crown Prince earlier swore by his title as Crown Prince that Wenmu and I were complete strangers. How is it that he suddenly changes his story now? Saying that I crawled under Wenmu's crotch, Yan Ci narrowed his eyes and said slowly, Are your words still valid? The faces of the three people in the main seat sank. Yan Qing was stunned, not expecting Yan Ci to have grasped his weak point. You're bluffing. How stupid, how boring, by now I had lost all interest. Yan Qing was still chattering on, his weak defense grating on my ears. I wished I were not mute. I wanted to say to Yan Qing, when someone appears odious, the onlooker also feels odious. Seeing you in such a humiliating position makes the audience feel humiliated too. So, Your Highness the Crown Prince, for the sake of sparing us, your listeners, further embarrassment, please go and die quickly. The final verdict in this case was delivered by Yan Zhan, who had been appointed as temporary coroner by the Chief Minister of the Court of Judicial Review. Yan Zhan had studied under a renowned physician since childhood. Going south to control floods, heading north to treat illnesses, he was a remarkable person. I heard that as soon as he returned to the palace, he was entrusted with an important task. Without even removing his cloak, he hurried into the main hall. When the investigation of the suspicious case reached a deadlock in court, Yan Zhan happened to step out of the main hall to present the autopsy results. The firelight illuminated his goose-yellow cloak. I couldn't see the face under the hood. Only remember his voice like striking ice and shattering jade. Died of excessive blood loss, the only wound on the abdomen. The weapon matched the shape of the wound. The minister of the Dali temple hesitated to speak. Yan Zhan said, As for whether it was suicide or homicide, my knowledge is limited and I cannot determine. Please forgive me. Yan Qing suddenly stood up, but before he could argue, he was blocked by Yan Zhan's next words. In addition, there is another matter. He raised his hand to signal the soldiers to present a letter, and slowly said, I found a suicide note inside the deceased's shoe, thousands of words long. Written in the tone of the Empress, the suicide note accused Yanqing and Wenmu of atrocities. The delicate handwriting densely filled the entire white paper, every detail vividly described, causing all who heard to show horror. Yanqing, who had collapsed on the ground, listened with eyes wide and dazed. After a long time, he staggered to his feet, knowing he had lost all support. He laughed despondently. Man proposes, heaven disposes. Yanci, aren't you afraid? You will be punished. If there is any falsehood. Yanci stood unmoved, pointing to the sky and swearing, "May heaven strike me down with lightning." A thunderbolt struck down, and a dazzling heavenly light fell upon the world. Suddenly, a storm broke out. The palace servants scrambled to clear away tables, escort prisoners, and hold umbrellas to shelter from the rain, falling into chaos. Trampling shoes crushed the flower beds, stems and leaves bent low and splashed into puddles, a pitiful sight. Yanqing and Yanci were both taken into custody and thrown into prison. Yanqing's curses faded away along with the 3 large tables being carried out of Huaizi Palace. Inside the palace, the ground was strewn with pink-purple petals and sticky sap. These were the flowers her ladyship loved. I crouched on the ground, gathering the tiny petals into my skirt, and carried them to the eaves to shelter from the rain. I wasn't on duty this morning, so I had plenty of time to pick flowers, sheltering from the rain and catching up on sleep. On my 3rd trip, no rain fell on my head. I looked up and saw Yanzhan draw back his cloak to block the rain. "Thank you," I gestured to him, but I was already soaked. We took shelter under the yellow glazed tiles, where raindrops fell one by one along the roof edge, like eyeballs. Each transparent orb reflected Yanzhan's face. His features were clear and sharp, his pupils pitch black. When he lowered his brows, he had a kind of compassionate beauty. I heard the matron praise Yanzhan, saying, "The high mountain is looked up to, the broad road is traveled upon." The lofty mountain inspires admiration. The broad road allows people to walk. She said Yanzhan is the lofty mountain, Yanzhan is the broad road. Palace attendants came and went. Yanzhan took off his cloak. Revealing a jade-colored robe with narrow sleeves, he said to me, "Open your mouth, let me look at your throat." Yanzhan didn't bring a bamboo splint, so he broke off a flower branch and used it to press down my tongue root. After a moment, he took out the flower branch. It brought out a strand of saliva as thin as silver thread. "Too late. Your throat has been burned." Knowing that I had been beaten with a paddle, he wrote a prescription for me and then left. I released my hand, clutching the hem of my skirt. I unfolded the prescription. There were no words on it, only a drawing of a stool. Stool. Wait. Limping through the ground covered in blooming petals, I once again picked up the iron axe and resumed my life of chopping pork and chanting Buddha's name. This morning, news came that a coachman had died by poisoning, but no one cared about his life or death. Compared to this, the stories of Yanqing forcing women into prostitution and Yanci killing for her mother were far more popular. They spread through the palace like wildfire. Hearing that I was implicated, many came to inquire, but upon discovering I was mute, they left disappointed. As the palace attendants scattered in all directions, Yin Tao asked me, "Guanqi, you sit on pins and needles every day. Are you also worried about the 13th prince?" "No, it's because that damned right temple officer gave me 20 strokes of the board. My bottom hurts when I sit." That night, Yin Tao crept into my room, forcefully pulled down my pants, and applied medicine to my swollen and bruised backside. As she applied it, she began to sob. How pitiful the 13th prince is, being bullied like that. I whimpered along with her. It turned out Yin Tao wasn't feeling sorry for me. The one she had secretly admired without revealing his name was actually Yanci. Shocked, I pulled up my pants and gestured frantically. "You must not fall for him." "Guanqi, I don't intend to marry him," she said, taking my hand. "Life is too bitter. I just found myself an excuse to be happy." Her face was full of longing. "I want to count his eyelashes one by one while he sleeps." "Everyone has eyelashes, so what's so special about them?" I spread my hands in confusion. "You want to count eyelashes? I'll close my eyes right now." I shut my eyes, but someone pinched my cheek. Silver Peach's laughter rang out. "Idiot." Half a month passed. Yanci emerged from prison unscathed because the Yan Emperor needed him badly, needed Yanci's blood, Needed Yanci to crack open the beauty's skull for him. Needed Yanci to fill the void left by Yanqing's absence. As for Yanqing, he had abused his power to force innocent girls into prostitution. The Yan Emperor, in a fury, stripped him of his crown prince title. Demoted to commoner, Yanqing went mad, screaming wildly in his cell. Yanci, Yanci, come out. Yanci took pity on him and met with him alone. That very night, Yanqing committed suicide in prison. It was said he took off his prison uniform and looped it over the bars of the skylight. Then, stepping on stacked straw, she hanged herself to death. Yan Nu died from humiliation. Emperor Yan took pity on her, picked up his brush and stamped his seal, restoring her identity as imperial consort Yan. I hadn't seen Yanci for 2 months. On the night the imperial edict was issued, Yanci came to me with wine, drinking one pot after another. He said he had been a dog for nearly 10 years, finally able to don robes and crown, to become the outwardly human but beast-hearted 13th prince. Just as he had done for the past 4 years, he pushed open the kitchen door and sat on the threshold, sharing sweet potatoes and the high-hanging moon with me. My axe rested on the steps, its handle tied with a red tassel. The wind brushed it, and it looked like a drop of flowing blood. Yanci reached out, his fingertip caressing the corner of my eye. The thin calluses made my cheek twitch involuntarily, which amused him into hearty laughter. The vermilion birthmark between his eyebrows trembled, stunningly captivating. Half a canine tooth peeked out from under his crimson lips. The third secret. Yanci handed me the peeled sweet potato, and I told Yanqing about it. Now I'm telling you. Yanci lay down, resting his head on my lap, fiddling with the tassel tied to my axe handle. Back then, Empress Jing held a tea gathering, inviting us mother and son to join her and her son at Mingyi Pavilion for tea and flower viewing. Empress Jing dismissed the palace attendants and poured the tea herself, drinking the first cup to prove the brew was safe. As Yanqing picked a rose and pricked her finger, she wouldn't stop crying. Empress Jing turned to check on her, and at that moment, a flying insect landed in her cup. My mother kindly pinched away the bug and swapped the cups. Little did she know, Empress Jing had smeared poison on the rim of her own cup. Cleverness overreached itself. Empress Jing died from her own poison, but Yanqing refused to let it go, insisting my mother had poisoned her. The king was about to order my mother to drink poison wine. I argued fiercely in her defense. Guess what happened next? I gestured. Your Highness, I am the son of the accused. No matter how reasonable my words, they seem like an excuse to protect my own kin. The emperor didn't believe you. He only believed the crown prince. Actually, that's not the case. Yanci smiled. I kowtowed around Yan Palace to prove to my father that what I said was true. My kneecaps were worn away and I couldn't walk, so I had to drag myself along the ground using my hands. Worse than a dog or a pig. My father finally believed me and released my mother from the cold palace. But at the critical moment, my mother confessed to him that she was the poisoner. Why? My hands reacted faster than my thoughts. My fingers flew as I signed rapidly, because the empress felt indebted to the crown prince. Yes, Yanci sneered. Now she's gotten her wish. But I became an accomplice to the lie. Look at her. Neither truly good nor truly evil. She wants a clear conscience, yet still clings to life. She wants everything. For her conscience, she made a sacrifice, Yanci said. That is, sacrificing me. I wanted power, but the empress held me back at every turn. Just then, Yanqing set a trap. He sent a defenseless servant boy to spy on me. I saw that he wanted to provoke me into killing, but I still killed the boy. Perhaps he meant to pin the crime on me, but I seem more useful to him than the empress. So he took a risky move and staged such a drama, framing me for matricide and biting back at Yanqing's throat, leaving Yanqing with no way to defend himself, suffering bitterly. Yanci's hot tears fell drop by drop into the hollow of my neck. He lowered his head to smell the fragrance of osmanthus hair oil at my temples and said softly, "Don't use it anymore. You are now 20. When Yanci was about to go to his fief and was selecting servants, he chose me. The night before I learned I was to leave, Silver Peach cried until her eyes were swollen like walnuts. I sat in the room, watching her blow her nose and cry as her fingers flew. Don't call yourself Silver Peach anymore, call yourself Walnut. She still didn't get it. She just kept sobbing. I know I can't bear to leave you either. I sobbed along with her a couple of times, then held her tightly. Neither of us said anything. We just waited for dawn. Later, I grew bored, so I pointed at myself and said, "Do you want to count my eyelashes?" Silver Peach's tears turned to laughter. Lying on the couch with her face upturned, she then rolled over and sat up. "All right," she said, "let's count." But before we finished counting, dawn had come, and sunlight streamed through the lattice window. Spreading on the purple floral quilt, I left Yen Palace, sitting in the carriage. I lifted the curtain and looked back. Yen Palace loomed like a giant beast, watching me leave Yen Capital. I let the curtain fall, thinking to myself that one day, this behemoth would kneel at my feet. I closed my eyes to rest. The carriage swayed, and the tassel I tied to the axe handle trembled behind me, unceasing. Yen Ci settled down in Qingzhou. Qingzhou was rainy. Summer always brought peals of thunder. On a stormy night, Yen Ci woke from a nightmare, panicking in his bedchamber calling my name. "Guanqi, Guanqi." I entered the room and lit the lamp. He had fallen off the couch and grabbed my hem, begging me not to go back. I held the candle to look at him. A drop of wax fell on his hand, blistering into a translucent bubble of blood. But Yen Ci did not let go. After the empress died, Yen Ci began having nightmares, dreaming of her planting hydrangeas in the courtyard, shaking the osmanthus trees. Yen Ci hated every stormy night because he had once sworn a poisonous oath. "If I lie, may I be struck by lightning." I gestured familiarly. "Our houses are close. If lightning strikes you dead, it will also strike me dead." Yen Ci asked me to sing. I couldn't, so he sang himself. The Lord would not cross the river, yet he crossed. He crossed and died. What can be done? The pale lightning illuminated his face, so breathtakingly beautiful it stirred the heart. Thunder crashed. He curled up in my arms, resting on my lap, and whispered, "Guanqi, the palace gates are deep. The only thing I can hold in my hand is the hem of your robe."
Fine.
If people in this chaotic world must cling to something, then the only thing I want to hold on to is an axe. As they say among the common folk, first start a family, then build a career. At 22, Yen Ci married Lin Yenge, the only daughter of the guardian general. On his wedding day, the ribs he had broken during a nightmare had not yet fully healed. Yen Ci rode a tall horse, dressed in a bright red wedding robe. Red suited him, as if this color was made to complement him. His features were like a painting, flawlessly handsome. He is the 13th prince, a man of both loyalty and filial piety, intelligent and sharp. Only I know the secret he conceals. Beneath his dazzling brocade robes, his body hides a fragile rib. After the ceremony, Yen Ci drank and talked late into the night with his father-in-law, General Lin. I was left in the bridal chamber to attend to Lin Yanga. She sat in the room for 2 hours, ordering me to pour tea 10 times. I changed the candles 7 times. On the last trip, she called me over. "I heard His Highness favors a pig butcher," she said. "So it's you. Kneel down. Let me see you." I knelt. She lifted a corner of the bridal veil with her pale, slender fingers. Through the gap, her beautiful eyes scrutinized me from above, silent for a long time. I knelt there, holding the wedding candle, hot wax dripping onto my hand. I grew bored, my mind wandering off. Lin Yanga's neck was so slender, with a light swing of my axe, I could sever it. She wouldn't even have time to cry out in pain. But I couldn't do that, at least not now. I had only lost my voice, not my mind. The clamor in the hall had faded away. It meant the wedding feast was over. Yen Ci's footsteps drew near, and Lin Yanga finally relented and went out. As I passed by Yen Ci, who was entering the bridal chamber, the tinkling, silver bell-like laughter of a woman came from behind me. A dull thud, then deathly silence. I stopped and counted to 3 in my head. Yen Ci pushed open the door. "Watch the chess game. Come back." I turned back to the bridal chamber, my gaze sweeping over Lin Yanga, who had fallen unconscious to the floor. I lowered my head and sharpened the knife, eager and ready. "Not now," Yen Ci said lazily, reaching out to twirl my stray hair. "Do whatever you want, but before dawn, help me finish the task." Yen Ci said that a woman's belly made him think of children. Children made him think of birth. Birth made him think of death. Death made him think of the Empress Dowager, and the Empress Dowager made him think of the days when Yan Qing forced him to eat shit, drink piss, and bark like a dog. That disgusted him. I rolled up Lin Yang's sleeve, revealing a bright red chastity mark on her inner arm. If you don't consummate the marriage, it won't fade. I stripped off Lin Yang's clothes one by one, but no matter how I tried, I couldn't untie the knot of her belly band. Unable to resist, I raised my hand to complain. How troublesome. Yan Ci leaned in from behind me, his chin resting on my shoulder blade, his icy palm covering my hand. I'll teach you. After teaching me how to untie the bride's bodice, he crouched in front of the basin to wash his hands, cupping the water in his palms. Guess what I'm holding in my hands, he said. Power, he answered. In this world, the only thing worthy of being held in one's hands is the power to stir up storms. Half a month after our wedding, many retainers came and went in Yan Ci's mansion. I stood under the tree, gazing at my own palm lines, thinking back to our wedding night. When Yan Ci cupped that handful of water, he said it was power. Would he ever consider that water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it? Lin Yanga had nothing to do, but she couldn't stand seeing me idle. She had someone buy 20 pigs and dump them on me, saying if I couldn't kill them all, I wouldn't be allowed to eat. After 2 days without food, I finally killed the last pig. Covered in the stench of blood, I secretly ate offerings in front of the Buddhist shrine. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deep prajnaparamita, clearly sees that all 5 aggregates are empty and thus overcomes all suffering and hardship. Please also deliver this hungry person. Yan Ci found me easily, crouched with me under the altar, slowly peeling the sweet potato, sharing secrets with me. The Jingzhou rebel uprising. General Lin deployed his troops to accompany me to Jingzhou. Suppress the rebels. The king granted permission. He told me to hold out my hand, handed me the peeled sweet potato. Let's go to Jingzhou. There are many pigs and many people there. You'll like it. Not 6 months into their marriage, Yan Ci volunteered to go to Jingzhou to suppress the civilian rebellion. As autumn harvest approached, the Yan emperor wanted to convert fields to mulberry groves and sell silk to Persia, in exchange for silver to fill the treasury. The farmers picked up hoes, killed the officers who came to trample the seedlings, and the group grew from there, calling themselves the Field Protection Army. Lin Yanga believed the Field Protection Army had destroyed her love. She sobbed on the pillow, her cries echoing for 3 days without end. I had to increase the force of my pig killing so that the fat pig's shrill screams drowned out the cries of this young lady who knew nothing of the world's hardships. Why can't I go with you? She tugged at Yan Ci's sleeve. If I have no child in 3 years, how will I explain to the late consort Yan? Yan Ci slowly withdrew his hand, wiping away her tears. Be good, Yan Ge. Don't run around everywhere. I stood with my head bowed beside him, catching a glimpse of his wrist where the veins bulged. He was enduring it just like me. Yan Ci was also very good at enduring. After the new year passed, I followed Yan Ci to Jingzhou. On the night of the rest stop, Yan Ci discovered Lin Yanga. She was hiding in the wagon loaded with fodder. She had sneaked into the convoy. Because the assigned laborers also included maids from the palace, no one had noticed her. I won't cause any trouble, Lin Yanga pleaded. Just let Guanqi attend to me. Okay. She said she wouldn't cause trouble, but she caused me a lot of trouble. And then it suddenly dawned on me. She didn't regard me as a person. Lin Yanga had nothing to do in the camp. She tormented me for amusement. If I managed to cheer her up, she would say a few more words. Lin Yanga said, the great Yan has 4 tiger tallies in total. 2 are with the Yan emperor and 1 is with my father. One piece. When Yan Zhan and Yan Ci had nothing, it was her father who recommended Yan Ci to Emperor Yan, and only then did Emperor Yan lend Yan Ci a tiger tally to command the army. Yan Ci should love her. So, do you understand? She kicked over the hot water I brought. She grabbed my hair, speaking slowly and deliberately. Don't turn around and go tattle to him. So, what if you've known each other for years? No matter how badly I treat you, he won't say a word. Understand? I nodded. Satisfied, she let go and sat down gracefully. Go get hot water. I want to wash up properly. To meet His Highness. Although the Farmland Protection Army had not been trained, they were full of hot blood and soon made the cowardly Imperial Army suffer defeat. Yan Ci and Vice General Zhang Wu returned, taking off their soaking wet robes. They could wring out half a bucket of bloody water. The stench of death enveloped him completely. Lin Yanga had wanted to step forward to greet him, but the putrid, fishy smell made her gag repeatedly. She gave a dry laugh and took the cloak. She turned around and tossed it to me. Go. Wash it and then give it back to me. After washing the cloak, I went to hang the clothes and saw a purple quilt with floral prints. She turned around and tossed it to me. Wash it and then give it back to me. After washing this cloak, I went to hang the clothes to dry and saw a purple quilt with floral patterns. Foolishly lying on the bamboo pole to bask in the sun, Silver Peach, fanning herself with a palm leaf fan under the quilt, widened her eyes and shouted, "Guess what I'm here for?"